What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the Resident Evil 4 remake, in that that's very possible that the voice actor as well as the motion capture, he does, both of them, for Leon, who did him in Resident Evil 2, is doing it for Resident Evil 4. So this is a few days old at this time. I'm sorry I'm so behind on the times, but this is something I did want to talk about because I felt like Resident Evil 4's remake was all but confirmed at this point. But it seems like, I guess in the greater internet, that it really isn't. I mean, in all reality, Capcom has not announced that Resident Evil 4's remake is happening. But here's what we know. Let's go over some of the rumors, some of the stuff like that, the reports that we've heard for a while, is that they are on just the ultimate binge of Resident Evil that they could possibly be on, right? We had the 2 remake, we had 3's remake. We are now having Resident Evil Village, which remember, that whole thing was very, very confusing. It was originally supposed to be like a Revelations 3, and there was also a Resident Evil 8 going on, but then Revelations 3 basically turned into what we now have as Village. Now, these are all just reports, but also that there was another Resident Evil, like, mainline installment also happening, so that whole thing was a little messy, hence why Capcom actually doesn't like people calling Resident Evil Village Resident Evil 8, even though they've made it very, very apparent that is pretty much what it is, but they don't like people calling it. I feel like it's for that reason. But then we know that Resident Evil 4's remake is up next. That's been rumored and leaked for quite a while now, and that would come out in 2022. Remember, we're on like an every year thing. Every single year we get some sort of Resident Evil game. Village comes out obviously in 2021. Resident Evil 4's remake would come out sometime, and these are normally early in the year, early 2022. And how you feel about that is obviously up to you. I can tell you that I really do like Resident Evil 4. I think that's one of the better, if not the best, Resident Evil games. And the fact that you would go to remake that when, I mean, it's old, but it's not all that old. That's up to the person. I feel like we are entering an age where we're getting remasters, we're getting remakes, and we're gonna get to some of them where we're gonna question if we actually should get them. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, well, is the game really all that old to be doing something like that? You have even like the Spider-Man remaster. It's like, okay, did you need to do that? It's only been 2 years. You have the Mass Effect trilogy remaster that'll probably be announced this Saturday. I guess remastering 1 and 2 makes sense. 3, it's not been the longest time in the world since 3 came out. So you see what I mean? We're going to get examples as time goes on. We could get I feel like at some point we can get like an Arkham, the Batman Arkham games. They could get remastered, and Arkham Knight's 5 years old, but it still looks very much like a current day game. Do we need a remaster for these? Witcher goes on and on and on, right? But then we have this again. And I'm not even gonna try to say his last name, so I'm only gonna talk to him as Nick. I think we're close enough as individuals to call him Nick. But Nick, whatever his last name, however you want to say that, the voice of Leon in Resident Evil 2 and the motion capture. Now, by the way, this comes from PlayStation Universe. Great website. Artist firm as well has just tweeted a new photo of himself in a motion capture suit, saying how it feels good to be back to work, and how he can't wait to share the project. So that's important too. He's working on something, and this picture is him working on something that doesn't already exist, right? That's something that we don't know what the title is, anything like that. As a result, people have been speculating that it's the Resident Evil 4's remake. Now, the thing to note is, on top of that, now this is what they say, and I'll add on to this. On top of that, if Capcom is targeting an early or mid 2022 release for the game, then motion capture and voice work now doesn't seem too out of the realm of possibility. That's right. I mean, so motion capture for games, I mean, you can be doing it for an extremely long time, but you normally start relatively early. Then you go, I guess, more heavy on the voice work towards the end, also while you're doing it. I mean, the motion capture and voice work is insanely, it's a lot of work. You look at, I guess a good example would even be maybe like The Last of Us Part 2. I mean, that game has been worked on for years, and like, say, Ashley Johnson, I mean, she has been motion capturing for it and voicing it for years and years for that role as Ellie, and they do it pretty much all the way up to when the game releases. Not necessarily motion capture, that normally ends several months before, but definitely voice work. When they need to do any like additional lines, they'll do voice stuff after that as well. So there's a lot that goes into it. I think it makes, like PlayStation Universe says, I think it makes perfect sense that if the game is coming out in another, year and a half, somewhere in that realm, it makes sense to do it right now. You already have a good basis for what the game is going to be anyway, right? Because it's just a remake of what you've already done. But I think it makes sense to start now. And again, I mean, I don't know when this article was 2 days ago. It was November 2nd. I don't know when he posted that picture. It could have even been November 1st, or it also, I guess, could have been on that day. So I don't think it's all that old, right? Again, depending on how you view the situation, I'm okay with it. Like, I'll buy it. I'll definitely play it. Again, I love Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 2, they did a fantastic job. I thought a lot of people look to that as like the best remake of all time. I think it definitely deserves consideration for that award, if you want to award it that. Resident Evil 3 obviously had some issues, and again, now we're entering that territory where it's like, well, one, it's not a new game, but it's newer than those two. And secondly, we enter the territory of it is in that gray spot where, like, it still does work. Like, it's still actually a really solid game even now. Now, when it came out, obviously it was looked at as one of the best horror games, of all time. Brought Resident Evil, even higher up, and then obviously they killed it with 5. They killed it in a negative way with 5 and 6. So there's a lot more to 4 than I think any of the other ones, where it's got the, I guess the non-advantage of being a newer-ish game where you do enter that territory of like, okay, well, does it need to be remake? I mean, and this, by the way, is a remake, so it's not a remaster. It's a full-on remake. Is it a game that needs to be remade? Has it been long enough for this game to be out? And well, it's been out for like 10 years. So I mean, I think so. I think it has probably been long enough where you could do that, where I could get behind that argument. But that's also in the camp of, well, it's a really good game. It was a really good game. It still is a really good game. Do you mess with that? And if you do mess with it, do you end up hurting the game? Like, you could probably say the big thing with Resident Evil 3, right, is that Resident Evil 3, I would say, hurt the game. That the original game is probably better off than this version of it. I mean, it looks better, it runs better, all that stuff, but they made some choices that did not go well with people, right? So I do think this is further confirmation. I think that we'll see. Now, they don't announce these things until the game that they're working on is already released, so I don't think we're going to get a single thing on 4 until Resident Evil Village comes out. So we got to wait for that first, and then we'll probably get the announcement of 4, I would say, very, very shortly after. They got a good clockwork system going on, not necessarily anything wrong with that. Until they royally mess it up, you could say they already did that with 3, but we'll see where it goes. So let me know in the comments below, guys. What do you think? Do you think this points to Resident Evil 4's remake happening? Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys have the bell icon turned on. I'll be covering all Resident Evil things, Village, Resident Evil 4, all that stuff. I'll be covering on the channel. Check out our Discord if you guys have not yet already. The link for that is in the description below, along with my Twitter and along with my second channel. But again, if you guys haven't joined our Discord, please do, and I hope to see you all on the next video.